Hey guys, what's up? We are back for another episode of Onside Chicks. I am Jordyn Coupe here with my co-host Kaylee. And yes, the NFL draft hangover is very real. So let's try and recover a little bit. How are you feeling after this week?
I'm so tired. I feel like the lead up to it and just prepping everything and mentally researching. It's not even that I did any manual labor. I just really was just thinking about it for so long and prepping and getting ready that now I feel like I've slept 10 hours a night all week and I'm still tired. I'm exhausted. And so as much as I love talking about this stuff, I'm like, I can't wait until we actually get into OTAs, training camp. We start having new, I guess, storylines. But then again, I know there's going to be weeks that we have nothing going on in the NFL. So I'm trying to savor all of the draft talk while I can.
Yeah, definitely. I know exactly how you're feeling because I feel like we've talked about this. We prepped for this. We put so much time into preparing for what was going to happen. And then it felt like we put all this time going into it. And then it was over, in the blink of an eye. And it was I have been prepping for 3 months for this one weekend. And now it's done. And now we can just kind of savor the news, kind of predict what's going to happen this season. And now we wait 4 months for the official kickoff.
Yeah, it kind of wild. I feel like that it was so long getting to draft day, longer than usual. There was a lot of drama in the off season, which we knew was going to happen. And now we're past the draft and things are slowing down. And I don't know what I want. When all the drama was happening, I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to just for it to be over, for us to get into camp and things to calm down. And now that they're calmed down, I'm like, oh, we have to talk about other sports now. So
I know. I just want week 1. I want all of the live action. I want everything happening. But until then, let's talk a little bit about what happened. So let's start off with the obvious. What teams do you think drafted the best this weekend? So many trades. I remember at one point I was sitting there and I was like, I don't even remember what the original draft order was. It was every 2 seconds, people were trading up, trading back. So what teams do you think won this?
My first one, I have 2, but the first one is Chicago. I just think
mine first.
Everything they did, incredible. I think moving up for Justin Fields, obviously the perfect move, exactly what they needed to do. And I don't feel like they gave up too much, right? They gave up 2 first-round picks, 1 in 22, 22, a 4th and 22, and then the 164th overall in this year's draft. I feel like if he's the guy we think he is, I don't feel like that's a lot, right? I feel like other than the first round next year, that's really not a lot to ask for Justin Fields. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I feel exactly the same way. And especially like you said, if he's going to come out and be their long-term guy, that first round next year won't mean as much compared to what they're actually getting long-term. When's the last time we've had Chicago with this stable franchise quarterback? I can't even remember. I feel like they tried with Mitch. Now he's in Buffalo. Nothing was sticking. So I'm so happy for Chicago fans. They deserve this. And I really hope we know how much we love Justin Fields. So I'm excited for him. I wanted him to be on a team where he could be that guy for them. I was nervous he was going to get stuck in a situation with the 49ers or the Patriots where we didn't really know exactly what direction they were going to go, or the Broncos. There's a lot going on. So I'm glad he's in Chicago. Even if he doesn't start week 1, I think my prediction by week 3 or 4 at the latest, realistically, probably week 2, Justin Fields will be their starter, and hopefully he can just take this organization and run with it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I think we've talked about this. Every ideal situation for a young quarterback coming out of the draft is to sit behind a veteran, learn the ropes, take your time, pull a Patrick Mahomes, right? That's how you get the best out of your rookie quarterbacks. But I can't imagine that's going to be the case in Chicago. No.
Because it's not Aaron Rodgers was learning from Brett Favre. You have guys like that. Justin Fields is Andy Dalton. And nothing against Andy Dalton. But Andy Dalton himself is not a starter franchise guy. Like, he's your traditional backup, like someone you turn to in a pinch, like someone you need just to get you a Band-Aid. Andy Dalton is a Band-Aid, unfortunately. So that's not someone that he's really gonna, I mean, I'm sure he can get like the feel for the league from him, but he's not going to learn how to run a team from Andy Dalton. So at that point, and especially with how much the Bears have been strong, it's so fear. I feel like I'm like completely giving the alternate of what I normally go with. I'm so on the page for sit them behind a vet. But for him, I honestly think with the state that this organization it is in, it'll be best for him to just get out there. They have weapons. Like, they have a pretty solid team around him. So it's not like it's not like the Bengals with Joe Burrow. They're not really starting from like nothing. So I think it would be great. And I really don't think Andy Dalton's going to last as their starter for more than a couple weeks max.
I'm pretty surprised they didn't take down the QB1 Twitter post with Andy Dalton, because I went to find it for work because I felt like it was a cheeky little tweet that everyone was kind of coming back to and throwing up, but I didn't see anyone actually use the actual tweet, right? Like, so I saw them like make comments about it, but I never saw anyone like actually post the tweet. So I was like, I wonder if it's still up. I wonder if I can find it. I go find it. I'm like, that's shocking. Like, just going into this draft at all, leaving that up is pretty shocking. But yeah, I feel like it was a great move for them. I'm excited to see what they do I'm excited to see what he does. Not really the Bears. I don't care, but like definitely Justin Fields. I just really want him to succeed. But the other big one that they got was Tevin Jenkins.
Yes.
Incredible, right? Like to come in and get Justin Fields, trade up for him, make that move. And then the cherry on top of that is Tevin Jenkins, and really impressive, right? Like, he's an NFL ready guy. He's a guy who's going to compete for and probably win that starting spot, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And he's huge regardless of who's under center. But just thinking if Justin Fields is the guy that is under center come the start of the season, huge move for them.
I think the way they handled this, and they were aggressive moves, and you can argue. Yeah. I've seen some people give the argument they gave up too much. I really don't think they did, because when you look at it, they made long-term investments to this organization. And really, you gave up one first round and a couple late rounds, one this year and one, what did you say, in the fourth next year?
I think so. They gave a first round next year, a fourth round next year. I think another first round later. And then the 164th pick overall. So a later round pick.
To me, that it's not like they traded up for guys that are like I really believe these are pieces that will benefit this team and carry this team moving forward. So the Bears nailed it. And it was like they got all excited, traded up and it's a good thing they did, because the Vikings came out and said if Justin Fields fell to them at 14, which I 100% believe he would have, looking at the draft order, the Vikings were 100% prepared to take him. So the Bears handled this beautifully. I think they did everything right. 10 out of 10. I was like so stoked for them.
Yeah, I love it. And then they went in, they got a running back, which is exactly what they need for depth behind David Montgomery. They went in and got more depth pieces on defense, which is obviously really ideal for them. So I think they killed it. It's what Chicago fans deserve. Honestly, we've seen them struggle for far too long. So I'm happy that they get to at least get excited about their draft, and then we'll see what happens during the season. But did you have another team that tops your list for best drafts?
Another team and this is a team that really surprised me, the Lions.
Okay. Love them.
Yes.
Love them.
I was so not expecting. They were brilliant, and they focused so much on their defense, and yet they still got they got a wide receiver in the fourth round. They took a running back with their last pick in round 7. But when Sewell falls to you at 7th over, you have to take him. And they could have gone a couple different directions there, but I think that was best case scenario for them. You just brought Goff in. Now you have someone there that is going to protect him, build your line around him. I loved everything about this draft. Levi, I'm going to butcher the last name.
It's tough.
Levi O. That's just what I've been referring to him as. But this was someone that I had going late on in the first round. And so for them to get him not late in the second round, I think he was 9th overall in the second round, but still to be smart enough to take him there, I just thought they handled it perfectly.
Yeah, I think they drafted so much for need, right? These aren't the super flashy, besides Penny Sewell, which Again, if we'll talk about him again because he's going to be my number one steal of the draft. I just love everything about him. But I think besides that, none of these guys are flashy names, but they're really good guys at their position. They're really strong guys that can come in and make an impact, whether it's in depth and having that security for the future or whether it's coming in and making an immediate impact. But they drafted for need. You have a first-year general manager. Killed it. I mean, killed it. And it is interesting because I think what the Lions got out of that Goff Stafford trade, I think underwhelmed a lot of people, but I think this draft could really change how people are viewing what 2021 could be for the Lions, right? And I think there's a lot more potential and anticipation going into the year for them now. So I like that one.
Yeah, and I agree. And we've talked about it, how they were never really an organization that was committed to the rebuild.
Yep.
With the decisions that they're making smart decision. Even if Jared Goff isn't their long-term quarterback, they're building a team that is solid. And I think maybe they are, not that I think they're going to come out and be outstanding this season, but I think they are moving in the right direction quicker than I originally thought they were going to.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm excited. Did you have any other ones? Did you have honorable mentions?
Oh my God, my Eagles.
Of course.
My Eagles did well.
They did really well.
They did well. Like, I was shocked. I mean, we'll talk more about it.
We will.
But like, I was blown away. Like, there was one pick that I don't love. But considering last year, I wanted to personally burn Howie Roseman's house to the ground. I think this is a major upgrade, and I'm like so content, and I'm excited to watch my team.
That's exciting. I think it's good because I think we're both in that spot, and we both have teams that previously we haven't been that excited to watch. So I'm happy for us. I think my only other honorable mention was the Steelers. Really liked what they did. Surprising, again, because their offseason moves weren't that impressive to me, but I think I just love Najee Harris. I think he's a quality human being.
Yes. He's exactly what they needed too.
Exactly. He's a gem. He fills a need, especially after losing James Conner. He's going to be an immediate impact kind of guy. They also drafted for guys that are going to come in and be impact players this year, which I think is a really good sign that once this year comes and goes, it'll be the end of the Roethlisberger era, which I think most people are assuming anyways, but I think this is a really good sign that they're going to hedge their bets while they have everyone still there and then worry about the future a little bit later, which I'm fine with. I think, if you have a ready team, which, they did pretty well this season. I think they had, the later half of the season, they struggled, but I think they've got pieces there. So if they can just fill those holes, I think we'll be in a good spot. But yeah, that was it. That was my honorable mentions. Do you want to talk more in depth about your Eagles?
Yeah, let's move on. I'll do my Eagles reaction, and then I need to hear your thoughts on the Jags. But yes, so the Eagles came out. When I tell you, I was panicking on draft night. Like, I was in full on panic mode, especially when I think panic really set in when the Bengals took Jamar Chase, because I was like, that was worst case scenario. And I said, I can't remember if I said it here on my YouTube, but I was like, if Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase go at 4 and 5, that's worst case scenario for us. Because in my mind, I was thinking the quarterbacks would go early on. They would push the rest of the offensive talent back, and then it would sit us in a great, and not even offensive talent, push the cornerbacks back as well. Like, so I was like, there's going to be options for us at 12. And then all of a sudden, Kyle Pitts is off the board. Jamar Chase is off the board. Waddle's off the board. Both cornerbacks are off the board. And I'm sitting there knowing that the Giants are in front of me, and I'm panicking. And I was like, my mind immediately went to, oh my God, Howie isn't going to know what to do, and he's going to take a quarterback. Like, that is literally where I was going, because the night before the draft, they were trying to trade up to get Fields. So their mind was there. So my heart's racing. I'm like a nervous wreck. I have like this montage of Snapchat memories saved of me being like on this roller coaster of emotions. And then we made a deal with the devil, traded up with the Cowboys, which was best case scenario for them because they were going to take Micah Parsons at 10 anyway. So now they got the same guy they were going to take. and they get an extra third round pick. And we actually handled the draft correctly. And we got Devontae Smith at 10. And I was the happiest person ever because that was really all I wanted once I knew Pitts wasn't going to fall. But so this was best case scenario. Day 2, I really wanted Asante Samuel Jr. just because I really wanted a cornerback there. So I was a little upset. Not that I was ever mad about the pick, but the more I think about it now, I honestly really like that we took Landon Dickerson in our second round, because this is a guy, realistically, we're in Jason Kelsey's last year, because there was thoughts that he could even retire this year, but he came back and he said he's going to play again. I think this is going to be the end after this season. And he has been a staple for our team. And not only the way Landon Dickerson plays, his personality, like his grit, like everything about him reminds me of Jason Kelsey. So if he can come in and kind of be that for us, I'm really excited about it. The injuries are a red flag. So that's the only thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way. But if he can stay healthy, I love him. His draft call, he literally is on the phone with them and he's like, don't even send the plane. I'll be there in 10 hours. I'll start driving right now. Like, I feel like he's going to fit in Philly so well. So I'm super stoked about that. The only pick that I don't like was our third pick, Milton Williams. Defensive tackle, just because I felt like that was one of the only positions that we were actually in a strong spot. Nothing against him. I watched it. He was great. It was just the only position that I thought we like really didn't need that much help in. So I was kind of like, I felt like we wasted a pick there, but we made it up on day 3. Kenneth Gainwell, I am so excited about, running back out of Memphis. Love him. And I think we needed depth there. Miles Sanders keeps getting hurt. And we have Boston Scott. We have like these little guys, but just that added depth makes me feel really comfortable. So overall, we got the safety. We did end up getting a cornerback. So I think we hit all bases. Yeah. And I'm definitely pleased. Like, I'm surprisingly shocked and happy.
Yeah, I texted you. We were texting during the first round, and Devontae Smith is just a gem. I love him.
Outfit, like he just
great. He's great. I think we talked so much about him over the past couple weeks leading up to the draft. So really exciting that all worked out, because I think he's going to make a huge impact. That's obviously a team that really needs him and needs that impact. And I think he's just going to be like a light in the locker room wherever he goes. So
I hope so. He already the next day, literally the day after the draft, him, Jalen Hurts, Brandon Graham, all went to the Sixers game together. They were sitting courtside. And I was like, this
so cute.
Yes. I was like, this is making me feel so good, because it feels like we're getting like a brotherhood back. Like, we're getting a vibe. Everyone's already working with Jalen Hurts and connecting to Jalen Hurts. So fingers crossed, this all is working out for the best. But you also had a great draft. Tell me about your thoughts.
Yeah, we did it. We did the tank successfully. We got Trevor Lawrence. I think that, obviously our first number 1 overall pick in franchise history. I'm glad it was this year. I think it's one of those things that worked out. Like, we've always, hovered really early in the draft. I was joking around with some people at draft night that because I've never had to legitimately like sit and cover the draft, like pick by pick before this year. I usually go to bed pretty early just because I don't ever have to stay up that late. So nothing new, but I felt immediately better. I think it was weird though, because I knew who we were going to pick. I felt like it almost didn't matter who we picked after that. I just kind of felt like that was it. There we go. We're done. The draft didn't even really start until pick number 3. But I like it. I mean, I'm happy. He's going to do well, hopefully. I think the controversial pick was Travis Etienne at number 25. That was something that people didn't love. I really enjoyed it though. I thought it was good. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. This entire draft was drafting for friendship. And I like that. I think it'll work.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I think so. I saw some feedback just from people. I don't necessarily know if they were Jaguars fans or just overall commentating and being haters, but it was definitely like They were upset because they felt like there's a lot more we could have done maybe defensively at that pick. It is a first round pick, but when you look at the overall placement of our picks, right, we were at 25 and then we were back at 33, right? So we're not like losing out on a ton between those two picks, but I think, you know, we had 5 picks in the first 62. So there was a lot of room to kind of address needs throughout the day. But I just saw a lot of like panicked people saying this means you have to trade James Robinson. And what are you going to do with James Robinson? I'm like, I don't know one team in the league that wouldn't love to have 2 great running backs.
Exactly.
Like I know we just got Carlos Hyde. I'm sorry. I hate to tell you, like, I don't know who out here is a major Carlos Hyde stan. That's not the guy that's going to lead you to the Super Bowl. Like I love him. He's great, but you need young talent. And I think what Etienne brings compared to James Robinson, they're 2 totally different kind of running backs. They can be a really great 1-2 punch. You have someone who has a connection with your quarterback. He brings that chemistry along with him. He's great in the pass catching game. I just think he complements James Robinson in a way that is going to be really successful for us. And I of course, it's going to take production away from James Robinson, but to be honest, if we want him to have a long career in Jacksonville, he shouldn't be the only running back there. I mean, we saw how that worked out with Leonard Fournette. It didn't. So let's not do that anymore. Like, let's not go that route. So I'm happy with it. We got Luke Farrell, which I think is also going to be a huge guy on the offense that's going to come in and play a lot this year. I like the vibe. We have this young offense. We have these guys that are hungry. They're ready to get after it. And I think that, you know, has only really been added to in the draft. And I think you look at what we gained on defense, obviously Tyson Campbell, Andre Sisco, who I think is just fantastic. Mm-hmm. He's just a guy that the fact that we got him when we did, crazy, because he probably should have been the first to go in his position, or at least in the top, 2 to 3 in his position. And I just love everything he brings to the table. We needed that secondary help. And I think the main criticism overall was that we didn't get enough pass catching help, which is fair. Like, if that's the only negative criticism we have about our draft, then we're in a pretty good spot, because you look at what we have. We have DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, who's on the come up. We added Marvin Jones in the offseason. So I'm not mad about it. Like, they definitely could have added another piece there, but I don't know how much it would have had an impact this season. But yeah, I mean, if that's like the negative feedback, I'm here for it. Like, cool. It could be a lot worse, to be honest with you.
No, 100%. And like you said, I like the Travis Etienne take. Because we see what it's like. You see Joe Burrow and now Jamar Chase are back together. Tua and Jalen Waddle. We drafted Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson, who are both at Bama together. I know Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts know each other from Bama. Like, this was completely that draft for like camaraderie. And now you're seeing like, they have this connection, things like that. And we've talked about it, not related to the draft, just talk about like when the team has that connection. That's when you execute the best, just because you trust each other. You can kind of read each other's minds. Like, you know what they're going to do before they actually do it. So it sounds cheesy, like just drafting for friendship, but things like that will sometimes take you to the next level if you execute it correctly, if you both have the talent, which I think they do. And like you said, it will take away from James Robinson a little bit, but overall, you can't just rely on one guy. You need options. And like you said, they play different. They run, like, this could be great for your offense. The only thing that did surprise me was Urban Meyer usually says he likes to build teams around the D line. So I was convinced that's the direction they were going to go. And not that it's a bad thing they didn't. It just shocked me. But I like it. I like pretty much all the moves you made.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, I think we have strong guys on that defensive line. Like, we have those. That's really where our veterans are, right? Like, when you look at our roster, and it's crazy to say veterans and look at those guys because they're still so young. But when you look at the turnover that has occurred between 2018 and now, most of our roster is turnover, right? Like, Tom Coughlin pushed a bunch of guys out. Things changed dramatically. No one wanted to be in Jacksonville. So now we're rebuilding the culture, the reputation. And those guys on the defensive line are really the guys that have been here. Like, they've been here. They know the system. They have really helped establish an identity on defense that I think really helped not only the line last year, but especially our secondary, which is really young, right? Like you had a bunch of young guys out there. They started off shaky. And to be fair, there's still guys like Trey Herndon that could use a little more polishing, but I think they all helped each other to get that identity together and really build one unit when it came to defense. So I think we're in a good spot. Like, again, no expectations that we're going to go and run away with anything this year. But I think just as as far as rebuilding goes, this is probably as efficient as you could ask for, right? Like you come into 2018, you don't perform how you want to perform. You have people leaving. So between 2019 and 2020, you've basically torn everything down. You've kept who you want to keep. You've got a new coaching staff, a new front office. You have secured a first round, the number 1 overall pick and the best quarterback prospect in a decade. Like it's the most efficient rebuild you could ask for. So we'll see what happens in a couple years, but I think it'll just be fun to watch this year, which is more than we can usually ask for.
Now, I did see people arguing on Twitter over whether or not Trevor Lawrence would even start week 1. Are you listening to that argument at all? Like, who
else is going to start?
Gardner Minshew?
Like this, but yeah, and that's like my question is because they've been so up in the air about Gardner Minshew. Obviously, like we had Mike Glennon before. I don't even know if that's still a thing. I have no idea. I know we brought in like a backup in the offseason. I am not, my finger is not on the pulse and what's going on in the quarterback room because to talk about anyone else starting week 1 is wild. It's a wild thought. Like no one in that quarterback room is more NFL ready than Trevor Lawrence, and he hasn't even played in an NFL game yet. So like, just let that sink in because Gardner Minshew, love him to death, but if you're not going to commit to him, I don't think it's worth even going down that route. Like I do want him to be successful, and I think he can be, but I think you've already decided he's not the quarterback of the future. Like you made that choice way more than he made that choice. So I think at this point you kind of have to cut your losses and really kind of dive in feet first into this rebuild and into the quarterback that you really, I mean, went all out to get, right? Like, to be fair, like people might not think losing is hard, but losing that many games strategically is tough because you have a fan base to answer to, you have players in the locker room to answer to. Players don't tank games. Coaching staffs and front offices might. Players do not tank games. So like, that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself to secure Trevor Lawrence. So if you're not going to play Trevor Lawrence, I'm not really sure what the whole point of all of this was.
No, I agree 100%. And you can make the argument. We make the argument all the time. It's better for rookie QBs to sit behind a vet. Gardner Minshew isn't even a vet. Like Gardner Minshew is still so new himself. He still is making mistakes and he still has a lot to learn. And if we're being quite honest, and we love Gardner Minshew.
I love him.
Gardner Minshew. I want Gardner Minshew to go on a team that is going to utilize him and get as much out of him as they can. Trevor Lawrence isn't going to learn anything from him. If anything, Trevor Lawrence might teach him some things. He plays very mature. So I don't understand that. Every time I see it, I just scroll by it. I don't understand the argument.
Look, Jag's Twitter is like one of the most it's like the greatest place on earth and also the worst place on earth at the same time because there's just so much negativity, but we have a great sense of humor. So it's like you've got the humor paired in with just like overreactions constantly. And I don't want to say overreactions because we've been bad and like we don't have anything to show for the years that we were good. But at the end of the day, like we don't even know. Like they've been on this team for a week, right? Like they haven't even signed contracts. Let's just take a breath, take a step back. Like, let's just wait and see. But I can't imagine that they go with anyone else.
Oh my God, we do have to talk about this for a hot sec, though. Him and his now wife stepping off of a plane in Jacksonville. My jaw was on the floor. I'm pretty sure it was your story. You said president and first lady, and it's the most accurate. Their suits were incredible. She looked like beyond gorgeous, and he was so put together. I loved it. It made me so excited just for you.
It is so, oh my gosh, just the suits, the tennis shoes, like the whole vibe.
They are goals. They are really goals.
They were a unit. And this is what I keep trying to explain to my boyfriend is you have to be a unit Like, this is why coordinating outfits is so important when you go anywhere in public, because they come off, like, when you see them get off that plane, you're like, I'm not messing with them. Like, they are a team that's them two against the whole world. Their goals, like, they're building an empire together. And he just doesn't get that. I'm like, we have to wear the same shade of burgundy because, like, that's the reason. That's the reason. Like, we want to exude that kind of presence when we get out of the car. He just doesn't get it. So
I think it's totally fair. He'll get there. We'll make sure he gets there.
Yeah.
All right. So now we both got our rant out. We can both breathe now. We made it through. We made the right choices. There were some steals throughout the draft. There were a lot. Who do you think? I know who my favorite was, and I know you already kind of mentioned it, but go into who you think your biggest steal of this draft was.
I think the biggest steal, the biggest at all, has to be Penny Sewell. I just think to get him outside of the top 5, and whoever got him, it was going to be a steal because he's a generational player. Every single team in this league could have used him at any point, right? Like, if you are that number 1 spot in any other year besides this year, you probably take him. So I just, it's wild to me. I get it. Like, I love drafting for friendship. Like we said, it's very cute. The connection's important. Chemistry is important. But I'm not sure how chemistry is going to work when your quarterback can't stand up in the pocket.
Exactly.
So I'm a little concerned for what they're going to do. I'm a little disappointed. I know we talked about it last week and we were both kind of like, there's no way they take Jamar Chase, right?
I was shocked.
Nothing against Jamar Chase. Great player, great guy. Nothing to do with him. But based on needs alone. And I don't think Joe Burrow is a quarterback that's sitting there like, you have to draft Jamar Chase. Like, that's my friend. I don't think he's that guy. No. I think he's a very team-focused guy. So this, I do believe, was a front office war room draft decision. But wow.
Yeah, no, that definitely threw me through a loop. I was like convinced. I was like, there's no way they're too smart for this. They want Joey B long term. He's not just an offensive tackle. Like, no. There was on draft night, I'm surrounded by people and they were like, they can get an OT. And I'm like, you're not going to get a guy like him.
No, you're not.
And can you imagine, you have Joe Burrow, who is, I believe, going to be incredible. Like, I see him as a franchise quarterback for them. And then next year, you're in the position to get this generational offensive tackle. Like, that just sets you up so great long term. And the fact that they just went, nope. Like, to me, it blows my mind. You are going to find incredible receivers. There are always going to be incredible receivers. And there are great offensive tackles all the way around. But someone like him is so rare. And when you were set up in that perfect position to make it happen and you just chose not to, it's like the only pick that has gotten worse over time for me. Like, it's like it like digs at me. Like, it like really upsets me that they didn't do it. And I'm so excited for the Lions, but it makes me so sad.
It hurts my soul. It hurts my soul. Did you have any other ones? I have a couple more, but
I have one in the first round that Justin Fields. Like, you can't. Easy. Like, that's an obvious one. Sewell, Fields, like, these are obvious ones. My favorite one, because this is someone who I wanted the Eagles take. I think we were 5th. We had the 5th pick in the second round. I wanted them. It was either Asante Samuel Jr. or JOK that I wanted us to take. And so the fact that he fell to 52 overall and the Cleveland Browns, literally every pick went on. Asante Samuel Jr., who is another one, he was taken at 47th by the Chargers. So I'm glad I can at least still root for him because I love them. Yeah. But these are guys that I think easily could have gone. Like, I was scared Asante Samuel Jr. would have been taken.
Yeah.
Like, when the Dolphins didn't take him, I was like, yes, it's our time. And they had 4th pick in the second round. So the fact that they felt that far down shocked me. So I think they got steals here. And there were the Cowboys took a cornerback that wasn't Asante Samuel Jr. And I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah. It's wild because the more I talk about this draft, the more I realize that there were probably like 50 guys that were first round ranked guys. And I can sit here and say that all day where I'm like, that guy should have gone in the first round. And like, there's only 32 spots in the first round. There's too much talent. There's just too much talent this year.
Yes. No, this draft is honestly toxic, just all the way around, because there was so much talent. And it honestly, like, you can rank the guys. At some point, it's going to come down to like who best fits your organization, because there was so much talent to go around. And that's why JC Horn going above Surtain. I completely understand the argument. Surtain was like the number 1 ranked cornerback, but at the same time, it's like these two guys were, I think, like on the same level of talent. And I think you can swap 1 or 2, like it was them and then the rest of the cornerbacks to me. Yeah. So, and if it just, sorry, I'm getting so frustrated like talking, like there's just so much built up. It literally, we are in the hangover and I'm still trying to recover. But no, I think it literally gets to the point where it goes based on what your organization needs. So you can take a receiver or a running back that might be like, pretty sure the Ravens took someone in the 3rd round that was a 7th round ranked guy. Yeah. And I was like, and they just believe in him. Not that I agree with moves like that, but you know, stuff happens and sometimes people have faith and you just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I think, and this draft was tough. The more I talk about it, the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, what happened? But the Cowboys getting Micah Parsons, I loved to be able to trade back and get that. Also, though, not only for them to be able to trade back, but for them to be able to trade back with you guys and make that deal happen, and for you both to get exactly what you needed and wanted out of the situation in the same exact division is really cute. It's a lot of fun. It's heartwarming, and I think it was a great move for them. So I don't know. I loved it. I love that.
Yeah, that one, it was definitely interesting because I literally woke up the morning after the draft and I was like, I'm happy with my Eagles. I'm happy with Howie Roseman, and I'm happy with the Cowboys. I can't think that's ever happened at one time. And the only thing I did feel bad for the Giants, and one of my best friends, Sam Cardona, is the girl who talks sports. She has her podcast. She was heartbroken because she was like, it just felt like the rest of the NFC East was just out to screw us, because like you guys each got exactly what you wanted, and the Giants got so screwed they had to trade back, which honestly, if that trade didn't happen and the Giants did take Smith, I wanted the Eagles to trade back at that point because I was like, don't take anybody here, like get something for it. But yeah, no, the poor Giants, they got a steal though. They got a Cesar Solari at 50th overall.
To be fair, like, they got a steal. Not only that, but their free agency was incredible. Yes. So they're in a good spot. Like, it's not like they walked away empty-handed, and it's definitely not like they're in a worse spot than they were last year. Like, they definitely, as a team, improved between free agency and the draft. Like, they've significantly improved since last year. So they shouldn't be like too upset.
No, they shouldn't. And they got Kadarius Toney out of Florida with 20th overall. And he's a great receiver. So and like now it just adds extra depth for them. Like they're sitting in a very good position. But yeah, I feel like this whole draft, you can kind of talk about steals from top to bottom because there was so much talent to go around, and people were just taking what they thought was best and letting some people that might have been ranked as better talents fall. And I think people had like their own picks in mind. So even if other guys were on the board, they weren't really looking at it. They were just going with kind of what they were thinking, especially on days 2 and 3. But yeah, no, it was definitely a roller coaster.
Yeah. Guys flew off the board in the second round and the third round. It went fast, and I think you're right. Like, I think they came in with their draft board and they weren't adjusting to what was happening, which is totally fine, because if you've done your research on these guys, you know these are the guys you want. Mm-hmm. And they really have like an if this then that kind of equation formula going on inside of their head. But yeah, another one, Elijah Moore. That was a big one for me. Number 34 overall to the Jets. I think that's a really great, like, to pick him up along with Zach Wilson, Elijah Vera Tucker. Like, you've put your offense, and I was thinking about it because I read a stat saying that their passing EPA has been negative for a decade, right? I think there was like maybe one season that they had a positive passing EPA in the past decade. Okay, so you add Zach Wilson, Elijah Vera Tucker, Elijah Vera Tucker, and then Elijah Moore. What? Like, talk about like drafting for needs and adjustments. Huge, like insane. That was one I was surprised by because I really like him. He's another guy that I can sit here all day and be like, he should have gone in the first round, but he's just a gritty guy. Like, he's athletic, he plays physically. He had like a 97% catch rate past the line of scrimmage. I was like, how is this a second round pick?
The fact that the Packers did not take him at 29th overall. I will never I'm sitting there and I was like, you just kissed Aaron Rodgers goodbye, honeys. Like, you know what you just did? Like, do you know you just dug your own grave here?
Do we want to transition?
Aaron Rodgers? Yeah, transition.
Let's transition because
this is a perfect segue. How did the veteran QBs fare? Well, I can tell you right now, Aaron Rodgers is pissed. That was redonkulous.
Number one, let's talk about the whole drama on draft day because look, I like Aaron Rodgers, but a little selfish to really make it about himself on draft day. I was like, hey, these guys' dreams are coming true tonight, and you made it about yourself. But
you are stealing all of the thunder.
Whatever.
Can you expect anything less from him, though? That's like such an Aaron Rodgers move.
Such an Aaron Rodgers move. So that was kind of strange. I think in his complaints, he's obviously upset with the fact that they drafted Jordan Love last year, the fact that they didn't draft wide receivers last year when there was a ton of wide receiving talent. They're just, he's upset overall, right? Like he is probably not going to show up to camp if he's even there past June 1st. There's a lot going on. And the fact that they just didn't help him out at all. And I think it's interesting because he brought up in his complaints, I think, something about the situation and how it parallels with Tom Brady and Tampa Bay. And when you look at what they did with Kyle Trask, you look at everything that went down in Tampa Bay where they're like, we talked to Tom Brady and like Tom Brady gets to decide this and he's in this conversation and he is a big part of like our strategy and what we're doing in the front office. And then you look at Green Bay and not only are they not including Aaron Rodgers in those conversations. He had no idea they were going to draft Jordan Love, had no idea you're bringing in this quarterback to light a fire under his ass. Then you come into this draft saying you're not going to trade him, and then you do nothing for him.
Yeah. No, it's really rude. And it's not even that they didn't even include him in the conversations last year. He went to them and asked them to get a receiver, and instead, they drafted his backup, in their mind, his replacement. So there's just so many layers here. And like you see, we just saw what the Packers did when you communicate with Tom Brady and with the other players. Like they put together a Super Bowl team in 1 year. The Packers could be there if there was any communication going on. Like literally anything. And they ended up getting, and it's so funny, the wide receiver that they did get, another Amari Rodgers.
Dude, I was like, that's really cute. I can't tell if that was supposed to be ironic and sarcastic or if like they really just like this guy, but
I bet it was a little bit of both. I bet they liked him, but they just seem petty. And they just like Aaron Rodgers is like they know what they have to do to keep him. And they're just doing the exact opposite of what they have to. They're shoving him out the door. So it's really, they haven't drafted a wideout in the first round in nearly 2 decades. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, Green Bay, I saw the stat earlier and made sure to take it down because I was like, excuse me, I saw it on DraftKings. Green Bay has not drafted a wideout in the first round in nearly 2 decades, but the front office has found plenty of gems on day 2. 2 decades.
I'm personally victimized by that statistic.
Yeah, no, it's pretty disgusting. Like No, it's really sad. It's genuinely sad. And the fact, like, I don't want to see Aaron Rodgers on another team. Just, like, I can't. But then I want the best for him. And it's scaring me right now. It seems like they're just pushing him to retire.
It's wild, too, because you think, like, you look at all these teams that are right there. And you look at what they don't have and how far they made it and how the potential's there, right? Like they could make a Super Bowl run with Aaron Rodgers. Like he had an MVP year last year.
Yes.
Like, are we forgetting that? Like
the only reason they lost the NFC Championship game was because of coaching.
Literally coaching. It's so frustrating because it's like when you look at everything they have, their potential and the easy fixes you can make to get to the Super Bowl and you're just not doing it. Like it's wild because it's like, I get that it's Tom Brady, but doesn't it seem like that just makes your life easier just to communicate and like involve players in those decisions? Like, and I'm not saying like go to Drew Lock and be like, who do you want us to draft? But I'm saying like overall, like involve your players in decisions and make them feel invested in your team, invested in the future of your franchise, and maybe they'll be happier.
Yes.
Question
No,
mark?
literally.
Like,
it's so plainly obvious, especially when you have Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, I think this team collapses because they don't have any depth. Like Aaron Rodgers is bringing the best out of these guys because he's Aaron Rodgers. And obviously you have Devontae Adams, but other than that, these are guys that would never be household name guys. And we know them because Aaron Rodgers is making them better and because he is able to find them and work with them. You throw Jordan Love out there, you are as good as Jordan Love could be. You are just not going to get that same response. It's not going to be the same. So they're really just shooting themselves in the foot here. And it would have been so easy. Don't take a quarterback in the first round last year. And now that you did and you get to this point, you do whatever you have to do. Even if you bite the bullet a little bit and you make moves you don't want to make, you do whatever it takes to please Aaron Rodgers in this draft and not draft a cornerback and not even the best cornerback available. With it makes no sense to me.
A wild thing. I struggle with this, but let's talk about another disgruntled quarterback from the offseason, Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Wow. Because another guy who literally said, like, here's what I want. And it's totally reasonable, right? Like, I want better protection. I want to be able to not get hit so much. And they're like, nope.
They gave him a wide receiver. Like, does he need a receiver? No. I mean, depth, I get it. It's always good. But he has that's not their issue. Their issue is he doesn't have time to get the ball to the weapons he already has, sir. Like,
it's also not even a secret. Like, he told you exactly what he needed to make this team successful. And it frustrates me a lot. And I'm going to keep saying it. The fact that they ended last season and when asked about their disappointing result of their season, the fact that Pete Carroll said, we need to run the ball more, that's not the answer. To use last season as an excuse to not let Russell Wilson throw the ball, have a dynamic passing game, and really be who the kind of quarterback that he wants to be is ridiculous, right? Yeah. Like, he played out of his mind for most of that season.
He had MVP in the bag first half of that season.
100%. But there's only so much you can do when your defense is really weak and your offensive line is really weak. So they only had 3 picks, to be fair. So they had a second round, a 4th round, and a 6th round. So they drafted a wide receiver, a cornerback, and then an offensive tackle. But the issue is knowing what you need to do to keep Russell Wilson there. Why wouldn't you give up something? Like, why wouldn't you trade up? Like, why wouldn't you try to make some effort to get another pick in this draft? Why wouldn't you do something, right? And in the second round, you're still going to get a top offensive lineman, right? Like, you're not going to get a scrub. Like, not that anyone in this draft is a scrub, but you're still looking at top level talent in the second round. So the fact that they went wide receiver there was mind blowing.
Yeah, no, it was. I wish. I want to slap them in the face right now and just be like, what are they are ruining their relationships with their franchise quarterbacks. And do they not realize what they would be without these guys? And like you said, they're not asking for much. And I can't even imagine, especially Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers might have a little bit of an attitude to him because that's just how he is.
Yeah.
But Russell Wilson, I bet he was so polite. And he was like, listen, this is what I want. Peace, love, happiness. I imagine him being so polite, and now it just seems like they're walking all over him. And when he put out his list of teams he wanted to go to, they were teams that would have protected him. The Raiders, especially. Yeah. That O-line was fantastic last year. I remember there was one picture where it was literally Derek Carr dropped back, and it was a shield around him, and it was this is why Russell Wilson. This is why they're on his list. So, and I get it. Like you said, they only had the 3 picks, but then make the most of the 3 picks you have.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that hard.
It really shouldn't. And that's the thing is I get that if you are in a situation, maybe Pittsburgh, maybe where these guys are closer to the end of their career, right? Like maybe that makes sense. Maybe you don't go out of your way and draft up and trade things away to get those kind of players, but they're not at the end of their careers. Like Aaron Rodgers has a lot left in the tank. Russell Wilson has a lot left in the tank. So you would think like as close as these teams are to being legitimately good, that they would put in the effort to reinforce those areas to keep their star quarterbacks there. But and like you said, I think Russell Wilson, people who are more familiar with the team and their like communication and his kind of personality have straight up said like he wouldn't be saying it publicly if he hadn't brought it up multiple times internally, right? Like he's not that kind of guy. So like he must have brought it up. It must have just gotten like swept under the rug or like pushed off to the side. That's why it's coming up publicly. I just don't see him as a guy who's going to like first thing go and be like, here's teams I want to go to. And the team's going to be like surprised, right? Like I think it definitely came up before.
Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers, you can argue that he's at the end of his career, but that would be because he wants his career to end. Talent-wise, the man just won MVP. Like he is killing it. And they can get, I fully believe he could play for another 3-4 years if he wanted to. I don't think he wants to.
I don't think he wants to.
Unless he maybe goes to a team and he falls back in love with it. But did you see what Brett Favre came out today and said after his conversations with Aaron Rodgers, he can't see him like saying, all right, let's forget about what happened and move on. Like Brett Favre is saying he believes Aaron Rodgers is done with Green Bay. So it's definitely going to be a roller coaster. But there's another one that we wanted to talk about. And this guy, I wouldn't say he's a vet yet, but he's definitely moving closer. And definitely still getting more into a groove and figuring himself out. Lamar Jackson on the Baltimore Ravens. Compared to the first two we went through, I really like what the Ravens did.
They did it.
Yes.
They did that.
They handled it beautifully. They got him the wide receiver in Rashad Bateman, who I think is going to be incredible. And then they went guard. They got another receiver, and then they got a cornerback, and then they got a fullback. I just think the way they went about this draft, like they hit every base that they needed to hit. The only thing, you know what? Scratch that. The only thing I would have liked to see them fill was not that you can replace him, but kind of get an offensive tackle to replace Orlando, who's now on the Chiefs. Yeah. But I understand, like that's big shoes to fill. But no, overall, I really liked what they did. I think they went out of their way to help him and to get what they could to make him look the best he could be. So I'm excited for them.
No doubt. I think, like you said, the situations are night and day, right? Like this is a guy, and I think there's a lot of people who've made the argument of moving on from Lamar Jackson or not thinking that he's capable of being the franchise guy there. There's a lot of doubt.
I don't want to hear it.
I don't want to hear it either. I love him. And I think there's a lot of doubt around his position there long-term and whether he's a franchise guy. But the Ravens made that statement saying he is our guy. And they did that through their draft picks, right? Like every single pick they made was very strategic, very laid out in a way that benefits him the absolute most that it possibly can. It's going to be a roster of really good young talent, not just the guys that they're bringing back, but the guys they added in the draft. I'm excited. I think this team fell off a little bit. They got a little stale, and I think these are the pieces that are going to be needed to bring back that really dynamic offense, keep teams on their toes. I think Lamar Jackson's going to get back into his groove with some additional weapons to play with. But yeah, I was really impressed by them. I think I don't know. I felt like their draft could have gone either way. And I was kind of holding my breath, I think, when that first pick came up, because I was like, well, it's really going to be make or break on whether their season's a success. Because I think what I love about the drafts, it gives you this really nice mindset and a little sneak peek into what teams are thinking and how they're approaching the season, not just the draft, but I guess what their goals are, right? Like you can tell whether they're drafting for the future or whether they're drafting for like a win now situation. And I think with the Ravens, like they made such a strong statement. I loved every pick they made. They should be fun to watch.
Yes. And like you said, they did come off a little stale this season. Yeah. Not that they were bad. Like they got into the playoffs, but barely. And this was a team that they were my Super Bowl favorites the year prior. And it was an upset because of the Titans in the first round of the playoffs. But this was a team that was so strong. And they weren't bad this season, but they definitely didn't have that fire that they had the year prior. But I think the fact that Lamar Jackson made it into the playoffs, got his first playoff win, and now after having this draft, knowing that the team believes in him, this is a team that I think is going to come out and be the real deal. And I want to see the absolute best from him because I think he's just like a national treasure, like the sweetest human. He's a beast. And I think I don't understand. We've seen him throw, and now he has extra like he has the arm, he has the mobility, he's smart. And that is someone his team loves, and they all they believe in him. So I am big trust. Like I'm convinced that the Baltimore Ravens are the real deal.
I'm here for it. I do have like one off book question I want to ask you just because I was thinking about it. Obviously, we talked about Mac Jones to the Patriots. That ended up happening. Now, ideal situation, like we said, you sit behind a veteran quarterback, you learn. Cam Newton's not the worst guy to do that behind by any means. But we also saw that Bill Belichick and the Patriots are very impatient. We saw that. They had one bad year. They went into this buying frenzy. They didn't even really go out and try to explore other quarterback options. They were they were like, let's get Cam back. Let's just spend a ton of money in free agency and let's try to win some games. So now they have Mac Jones, who is very much a Patriots quarterback. He's a smart guy. He's a very intellectual guy. He plays the game very mentally. He's very much a Bill Belichick kind of quarterback. Mm-hmm. Is there any chance we see Mac Jones start any games this season?
I think there's definitely a chance, especially if we see Cam. And let me emphasize, they made all of the moves that they needed to make this season, even if they didn't draft a quarterback, to at least give Cam the best possible chance that he could have. Because he looked terrible last season, but I don't want to put all of the blame on him because this was a team that was kind of in shambles. Yeah. So now he's surrounded. Offense, their defense can hold it together. Like this is a team that's solid. So if we see after the first couple of weeks, Cam, and I don't think it would be earlier than Thanksgiving. Like I think it would be late. But if we see Cam continue to struggle and continue to make the same mistakes, I would not be surprised if Mac Jones comes out and starts a game towards the end of the season. But I definitely think it wouldn't be completely out of the question.
Yeah, I'm leaning toward it happening just because I just feel like they're so impatient. They tasted mediocrity one time and they're like freaking out now. So I can't imagine that if anything goes outside of perfect, I think they're going to be exploring that option.
And especially now that they know, like it's in the back of Belichick's mind. Like he knows he has this guy. And we saw what happened the last time they had a guy on this roster with a 3-letter first name and a 5-letter. Like he came in and he's ready. And he whispered, do you see on draft day, he whispered to Roger Goodell, he's like, this is what I wanted to go to. Don't tell anybody. And then he announces, this is the best organization. Like, so I bet they're just going to absolutely fall in love with him. But yeah, no, I would not rule it out as we see Mac Jones start. Now, here's one more off-book question for you. What quarterback? I feel like we should emphasize like minus Trevor Lawrence but realistically, out of the big 5, which one do you think is going to have the most productive season, or which one or two, if we're including Trevor Lawrence? Because I think it's obvious he's going to.
Yeah, I would say most productive. I want to lean toward Zach Wilson just because I think when you look at everything that they have there and everything they're building there, I think they're setting him up for success. And not to say that Jacksonville's not setting up Trevor Lawrence for the same, but they've got a lot going on there, right? Like their coaching staff is phenomenal. They brought in what I think is the right mix of people, and I think they're doing everything the right way. I would say Justin Fields, but I just don't think Chicago has. They need to figure out who they are, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's going to be a big question, and I don't know that gets solved. But I do like the idea that Zach Wilson will come in and have a productive year. Now, I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but I think just for him statistically getting into his first year, I think he might fare better than the others. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I want to say Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Just because I just feel like he kind of, not that he got swept under the rug, like he was in all of the conversations, but I think he is so much better than the way everyone is talking about him. So I would love for him to come out and just be productive and have this incredible season. And not that he himself won't. I do think there's going to be, like we saw this year with Mitch and Nick Foles. Like, I think there is going to be that quarterback struggle. They're not going to want to put it on him. I do think they're going to try and start with Andy. So I just think there's going to be that lapse. Trey Lance, I don't know if we're going to see Trey Lance at all. So I think it's going to come down to, and Mac Jones, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a start from him late. But I just feel like the quarterbacks that we are actually going to be able to see the most and judge is going to be Trevor Lawrence versus Zach Wilson. And like you said, the Jets are moving very quickly. So I just think he's in like a very good position from day one. Not that Trevor Lawrence isn't, because Trevor Lawrence, he has the whole package and he has that mentality. So he himself can come out and honestly maybe take this team farther than we're expecting. Not like a Super Bowl run, but just more productive than we were originally kind of planning on. But who knows? I definitely think it's going to come down to the two of them, though. Unless Justin Fields comes out, starts, and just takes over, which I wouldn't be mad about.
I wouldn't be mad. I also wouldn't be surprised. But I will say, if Trey Lance wins this starting job in the offseason, comes out as a starter, even if he starts maybe a couple weeks into the season, I'm probably going to lean toward Trey Lance on that one. Yeah. He's extremely NFL ready. He's extremely smart. He knows the game. When you look at that roster, like, let's not forget they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Like, they have a lot of that roster intact. They're maintaining that. So I think that's the whole kind of thought behind that, is really just saying, you know, we want to get back to the Super Bowl and we're going to do whatever we have to do that. And I think on the outside, that looks like Jimmy Garoppolo, and that looks like coming in and just reinforcing maybe any holes that you're missing from last year. But we don't know. Trey Lance could win that job. And if he wins that job, he's in a very good position. We also have an imposter in the comments, but we're not disagreeing.
No, we're not disagreeing. Oh my God. If Trey Lance comes out and starts, that would be a whirlwind.
That would be insane.
Oh my God. And we do have to remember, I feel like everybody kind of forgot about the 49ers, and everyone thinks the 49ers. The only reason the 49ers were bad last season is because of injury. That's literally, like, that team could not stay healthy. And they were down, like, they were pulling, they looked like the Philadelphia Eagles with like practice squad, and like people were coming and going, and like we saw Jimmy, we saw Kittle, but then they were off again. Like, it was so, they couldn't get into a groove. They lost big name guys week after week. So as long as this team can come out and be healthy, whoever they have at quarterback, they're a lucky guy, because they are in a solid team.
Yeah. No, it's exciting.
Oh my goodness. We made it.
There's so much. But
all right. Well, thank you guys so much. We hope you are recovering as well. And now 4 more months until kickoff, baby. Make sure to follow us on all social medias. You can find us at Instagram at Onside Chicks, and you can find us on Twitter at Onside Chicks Pod. Kaylee, is there any other last minute things you want to throw in there?
No, I'm just recovering, excited to spend a weekend with not a lot going on.
Yeah, so, just kind of chilling. I agree. Yeah. Awesome. All right. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.
Bye.